Stealing, switching.
I saw you earlier. Ron? All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February Information Technology and Communication meeting. This is our first meeting of the year, but let's all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
All righty. Do I have an approval for the agenda? Okay. All right, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? All righty. We'll move on to the approval of the December 6th meeting minutes.
I'll move them.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Any opposition? All right, thank you. And now we're on to limited public comment, which looks to be very, very limited today. All righty, moving on. Communications Director update.
Hello, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. To start on my report here on Department Communications, we've continued to promote open positions on social media, posting specific highlights for those job openings that need that further promotion. We see a lot of traction on that from other municipalities and even organizations sharing those posts out. And we've also tried to do a lot of varied content, motion graphics, video, just imagery, or just posting our NeoGov in general, or whether or not it's a specific position. We still want to see more, and we want to actually see more retention there and conversion, so actually more people applying. But right now, it's just more eyes on it at this point. We're not seeing a huge uptick in applications outside of like a boosted post that we've thrown $25, $50 at to then try and garner more. That's worked in the past, but so far, there's more to be seen there. The newsletters, as I stated at my last report, we've shifted to an internal and external newsletter. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, especially from department heads, because they can utilize that internal newsletter to share policy changes or just update or any messaging or questions that they're frequenting. So that's been a really positive. Any questions on any of that? Okay, web analytics. And I did want to first say, too, I'm going to go into some of our social media reach and such, which I've done before. If anybody has any feedback, or whether that's today or another time, about what you want to see in that social media feedback or the web analytic piece outside of, who's using what on our platforms, let me know. I'm kind of workshopping what this could look like monthly or quarterly. I'm trying to give you a bigger picture of growth. But so in the last 2 months, we continue to see that organic reach growing across social media, with Facebook still being number one. As I've said, we're averaging around 18 to 20,000 a month of passing individual screens of any individual users utilizing those platforms. So, we continued using repeated messaging within those different channels, from posting on stories or reels on Facebook and Instagram, general organic posts, sharing departments or other organizations' posts, as well as sharing in specific community groups that have allowed the Eaton County Facebook page to join into. And we've seen a lot of good interaction within that. And one thing is that our active user base, the folks following us, and we're at around 2.5 thousand now following us. They're mostly active at night, and so we're kind of playing around with what content works at what time of the day. And we've seen very mixed results, and it's hard to benchmark that as we're still growing. We're not as large as other municipalities' social media pages at this point. So as you can see, we're in that first graph there, we're averaging around 354 interactions. So that's likes, comments, shares, whatever it might be on any individual post, which is an uptick when you compare the prior 90 days to the current. And so I'm happy with that, but again, we want to be way higher than that. And so we should continue to see that growth. We're starting to get a little stagnant on that reach being around 18 to 20,000, and that's disappointing to me. So we're going to have to try some different tactics, different times we post things. I think the varied content is working when it comes to, slowly growing that reach, but we can do better. And so that's the plan. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you consider engagement? Is that a double click or more? Or?
So on any given post, that'd be a like, a comment, if they share it. Right now, we do get a lot of shares more than anything. If we have a really successful post, just to kind of like ballpark that, you'll see 15 to 25 likes, and then hopefully around 10 to 20 shares. And that's like the really big post. So if we post a press release, especially one which I'll go into some of the media stuff later on here. If we post a press release or media piece, or if we're posting a job posting, actually, those see a lot of reaction and content. When we post just general information about a department or a program or like these meetings, we post every time a meeting occurs. It's a little less engagement. Now and again, you'll see really positive engagement from that, but it's kind of a crapshoot at this point. And that's just because, I guess I'll move on to this other part here too. We're seeing that growth, we're seeing more interaction, not quite enough, but the targeted audience that we're utilizing, which is really just folks in Eaton County, any boosted post we've done, that targeted audience we've built, that is, we're looking at, urban areas within the county, expanding that out by 15, so the entire county and parts of the surrounding counties sort of see those posts. That's who we're kind of advertising to, if you will. That continues to be lucrative, more and more. Often you'll see that kind of diminish, and you kind of have to, modify and get a little more specific, less broad with your audience. Ours, we're still growing on that singular audience, and what that tells me is there was a gap in information sharing, at least on these platforms, Facebook, social media, from Eaton County that people are still interested in accessing. And so we want to continue to tap into that. If we do like a boosted post or something, or we start seeing that start to dip, that tells me that we are not targeting more specifically enough, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on social media reach or anything like that?
I don't know if this plays into this particular thing, but our YouTube videos that are going up, do you get any feedback on those?
Yeah, so we're sitting humbly at, it says 50 in here, but it was 51 because I'm making sure it's playing right now on my computer here. We have 51 subscribers, which isn't great, but you don't have to subscribe to actually watch.
Right.
Again, I post every meeting on social media, and in forums as well on those Facebook groups, which you often see a lot of specific communities interacting in, for better or for worse. We don't see much traction on those. There's been a couple of meetings where you'll see kind of an uptick, 15 people viewed, 20 people viewed, and I need to do my due diligence in understanding that live streaming bit, and Liz and I have talked a lot about this on, if somebody tunes in for 5 minutes of an hour long, does that count as a view? How is that defined? And some of the information there I don't have fully. Liz and I are still trying to understand it. But the feedback we have gotten, so we've changed how we sort of promote it on our website too. So it's easier to find, it's easier to link out to these meetings. It's right on the homepage, it's on the calendar, there's like watch live meetings. And then as we've structured the YouTube page, we're seeing, when you click into it, you see every upcoming meeting and the most frequent meetings, and then the playlists are organized by committee. From planning commission to this committee to everything. And I've gotten positive feedback from the public and a few of township supervisors actually recently that I spoke to. They're really happy to see how easy it is to find. And so that's great. Do we still want to see more interaction online? Yes, because we don't have too many here right now. So that needs to grow. I'll move on to the website now. Not too much here. The highest traffic, looking at Google Analytics, is still our online services page, public hearing page, and then our search page, which, again, that's not great. You would, obviously, people are searching what they want to find. What this tells me in the redesign process with the website is we need a more robust search system, whether that is using, there's a lot of search capabilities with AI and such that Civic Plus, who hosts our website, they have those options. We're kind of looking at what that might cost, though. And so, from December through January, we saw 47,000 individual site users, which is total users per site visit. That could be the same person coming back later. Before, when I reported out on this, I think it was November, we were looking at 67,000, a little higher. And that's because of what's going on, with the election, people looking for election results, et cetera. And so I think that 47,000 number, that represents a little more typical base. And we're now looking at 1 minute and 5 seconds per page engaging on content, which is a very good improvement. But there's a caveat to that, in that in January, we had a lot of press releases and a lot of attention over some sheriff's office incidents that occurred in the community, not really positive things, and that we saw a spike of people utilizing our website, and so they spent a little more time reading those press releases or interacting with that. And so that, I think, is a little disingenuous to say, oh yeah, our website, the time people are spending on there is just way better now. Not necessarily. We don't have enough data to really reflect that yet. That is a lot of work we need to do on that. Technology Services and I'll use this as an opportunity to shout out Liz at Technology Services again, as I do every report. She's wonderful. She and I officially kicked off the process of updating our new site. So what that means is we've met with our project manager and the design team. We're looking at the timeline, we're looking at what deliverables we need and what we want to focus on. What we want to focus on is ADA compliance, readability, and accessibility, which sounds like obviously we want to focus on those. But that's not something we've done in earnest or intentional before. And so we're looking at options for how to monitor compliance and fix that. Obviously, there's a cost associated with that, so I worked with Director Daly on looking at what our options are. I don't have an answer yet what we want to do, but there are a couple of software implementations we can take to monitor ADA and also monitor interaction. And so right now for that sort of redesign website, and that's a big word. Usually when you say that, you think, oh, we're building a new website. We're not exactly doing that. We're taking our Civic Plus, we're looking at what's being utilized, what's not being touched, looking at the template we utilize right now, what modules are on there, to update it to make it easier to understand, get that search page time spent on that down, make it a little easier for people to find what they're looking for and to spend more time on any given content piece on the website. So the timeline right now, as it stands, it's a long process, as I've said. We're looking right now at a mid-July. The entire website would be completely, you'll see some subtle changes. But, to say like, oh, we're done with this, it's where it's at, we can really start monitoring that data as it comes in for engagement. We can't really do that accurately until July. We can look at what we have now. Civic Plus is doing great right now in kind of compiling a lot of that data that they have that we haven't really monitored before, and we're going to work with them to figure out, the best options moving forward. Any questions on the website or the website change?
I guess not.
Great. Media-wise, so December, January, we sought and received press on the opioid settlement funds, strategic planning, emergency management, strategic planning, and public feedback, as well as several sheriff's office incidents throughout the public that we did talk about. That's why we saw the uptick on that graph you see there on website usage. And I do want to shout out the sheriff, undersheriff, and chief deputy Seidel. They were incredibly present and available to assist in drafting and the publication of those press statements and updates. It didn't matter what time I could reach out, and I'd be like, hey, what information do we have on this? I'm getting asked this. And it was a really great process. I'm really thankful to them for trusting me through that process. And I also want to thank Chairman Mott and Commissioner Barnes for being open and available during those same incidents, as I kept them updated on the different incidents, especially the one in Roxanne Township that happened. If you want further information or like specific links on any of those press pieces, and some of them So I drafted a press release for that incident, say, and there might be 7 stories, and I do another one and there's 1. If you want those specific links or anything like that, let me know and I can compile that list and get them over to you, and if you have any questions specifically on that. All right.
How is the media dealing with you now? Are they getting people to call you directly?
Yeah, I get a lot of phone calls, which is good, for better or for worse. I have a really robust list now, and they are paying attention, again, for better or for worse at this point. Could they be paying more attention? Of course. Moving forward, we're going to keep growing that list and that relationship as the county, and not necessarily, it gets tricky because you see, obviously, the sheriff office has a relationship with the media. A lot of the commissioners have relationships with members of the media. Some other departments have had interactions as well. You know, my job is to speak for the county total and to be a resource to any one department, any one office or elected on how to talk about county business. I'm happy with, you know, how much they're paying attention. It is a bit of a headache sometimes, but, you know, that's their job. And I hope to see that continue to grow.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, the fun part of my report, the last part here. After several months of design and 20 to 30 iterations of a different county logo and county seal, and internal focus grouping, I've talked to several different commissioners, and I haven't talked to everyone, not everyone on staff, or nor everyone on the commission, because we can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, if you will. But I'm happy now to recommend to this committee a new logo to represent Eaton County in official communications. There is a resolution in here, as well as, you know, the 3 most recent iterations, and I will talk about in a moment here. And if we were to move that resolution on my recommendation, we would then take it to the February 23rd full board meeting for adoption as our new county logo and seal. Within your packet here, you'll see 3 different logos. I'm just going to kind of talk generally about the process and what choices we made and why. They all kind of have these are the most 3 recent iterations, final iterations, and so this is sort of the direction we're going to go in for my recommendation, unless you don't like it, which we'll talk about, everybody. But, you know, the idea through this process and working with Edge Partnerships, who has been fantastic throughout this process and very patient, and fielded a whole lot of phone calls and meetings with me. But we wanted to sort of merge, when we're talking about Eaton County, agriculture, manufacturing, and small town. And we wanted to showcase motion, growth, trust, and speak with authority to the public as Eaton County in a way we haven't before. And so, you know, some of these primary color choices, Controller Sobey, you can scroll through these too for those at home. Emphasis on the 3rd one, which is my recommendation. The color choices I want to speak to as well here. That navy blue as that base, that emphasizes the emotionality behind that, it's trust, stability. It is a complementary sort of to the other colors that are in there, and it can stand alone. We've utilized it in communications already, and a lot of, it's an easy color essentially, and a standard color that a lot of folks use when it comes to trying to speak with authority. That red-orange, you know, that's attention-grabbing, is a contrast to that navy blue. The idea is to complement that navy blue and evoke a feeling of energy and kind of, you know, stamp down Eaton County. The green and yellow, that green, obviously it symbolizes growth, the emotionality behind that, and that yellow, it's creativity, it's ideas, it's positivity towards the county, and that's why we wanted to utilize that. And we can dive deeper into like the actual what's within these logos and where that came from and some of the decisions we made before that. As for the font usage, you know, these are open source typefaces, which is a good thing to utilize because obviously they're open source, so we're not paying anything extra to own these by any means. That Playfair display is sort of that Eaton County font there. That typeface is excellent and utilized a lot in titles and headlines, and that's that authority piece. That is kind of a regality to it. Montserrat is the other one, open source typeface that we're going to utilize. It pairs well with Playfair display, and it comes with a lot of weight options, bold to thin, extra light, etc. So there's just a lot of options to play with within that typeface. So yeah, again, we're working to showcase small town agriculture, motion, movement, positivity, and speak with authority on behalf of Eaton County. And so that third logo within the packet there, that is my recommendation for us to move forward with. So I can answer any questions now, too.
Any questions? Commissioner Toomey?
I just have a question about the amount of colors. Is that going to be a problem at all with printing or anything in terms of cost? Or usually, just in terms of what I just looked up, like 5 different counties right here. I haven't seen any above 2 colors. I can see it looks good right down here in that blue like stamp. So obviously, it looks good in one color, and I get the imaging behind it. I'm just kind of curious how that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, so there will be, this is sort of that, full-faced primary, that's what you're looking at right here. There will be other versions and iterations of this that are simplified for specifically printing, and also, working with printers to figure out that cost piece. What colors can we use to simplify that? What can we use to make it easier to print for any given thing, whether that's screen printing for a flag or whether that's printing onto county vehicles, whatever that might be. That's a good point. This is more colors, those two, and a lot of that has to do with the elements we were trying to showcase within here. So that is something, we did talk about, how simple do we want to go? What do we want to do here? And, this ended up, we didn't want to sacrifice that message for that printing cost. We don't see it as being too much of an increase, dependent on who we go with and what we're trying to print. But again, there'll be other iterations of this black and white version. We can play with the different color choices that we are showcasing. And there will also be simplified versions of just the Eaton County banner, Eaton County, Michigan, with the scales and the leaf. But that is a very good question, and we chose to highlight messaging over print cost.
Okay, thank you.
So that was a very long-winded answer. Yeah.
Excuse me. The first and third iteration, is it just the font difference? I didn't see them side by side, so.
Yeah, so the third recommendation is the one with that Play Fair display versus Montserrat there, and that was let me pull it up so I can see it here as well. You're talking about in the Michigan specifically?
No, I guess as she was scrolling through them, I saw the first one and the third one, and it went by quick enough that I didn't quite see what the difference was.
Oh, the first and third, okay, sorry, I thought you said the font was different.
Oh, I asked if that was the.
Oh, no, so the Scales of Justice, as you
Okay.
see in that third one,
Okay.
towards the bottom at Michigan.
Okay.
Through internal focus grouping, we saw that, some folks said, let's try and emphasize that more. And so we wanted to get a version of it that was a little more emphasized. But what that did was, when you look at it small or as a stamp, those Scales of Justice within the center of the background there as the focal point, although it does make sense, it doesn't translate well.
Oh, okay, it just
Yeah.
kind of got.
Yeah, you kind of lose it, and when you're pulled back, it's hard to tell what that is because it's just small. We had one where it was much larger as well, and that was jarring, and it kind of ruined the foreground versus background and what made sense for what caught your eye.
Sure.
My first impression of that first design with the scale in the middle makes it look like we're weighing off one against the other in that photo, in that picture. So, yeah, I don't like that one.
Yeah, those are some of the conversations we
Yeah,
had.
but the third one I like. I do like the third one. So, any other questions? Commissioner Rogers?
So you're suggesting the third one, right?
Yes.
I agree with you. I like the little maple leaf down at the bottom and the justice sign. And I like the silo on the farm.
Yep, Mr.
Commissioner Mott?
Yeah, I just want to thank Logan, and he put on a lot of hours along with Edge on this logo and design, and went through quite a few of them before we kind of settled on this one. And I like it. I think Logan and the rest of us would like to hear from all of you on this, because this is why we brought it to you in the first place. So if you can kind of comment on it, see if you like it, don't like it. I liked it right from the start. I thought the
We're
colors
looking at
popped
the
it out.
third one, right?
Third one, yeah.
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 Commissioner Toomey?
Yeah, I think this is obviously some great work. A lot of thought's been put into it. I mean, overall, I have some concerns about the color cost for like screen printing and stuff like that. Because I guess the concern comes from like, even if we simplify the logo in a few different ways, we've kind of done that with our current logo. But I have a lot of faith that since you're doing this from the ground up, you could still make it look like it's all coming from the same organization. Because you look at like the blue one we have now, and then this one, and nobody can even tell it's from the same organization. But you're doing it with that in mind this time, so I'm sure it'll be much better. And obviously, I just want to make sure it all looks cohesive. So that's really my only concern with it, but definitely trust your judgment there and that you guys have been working on that. So thank you. I think it looks great. I really do like the incorporation. I think my favorite part is definitely that centerpiece, like with the farm and with the businesses and the road and the land. That's my favorite part of it, I guess. I think it looks great. I like how it incorporates just the diversity of the county in terms of all the things we have to offer. Yay.
Anyone else? Any other
Need a
comment?
motion? Oh,
I was actually just about to ask the same thing that Commissioner Rogers was saying, is that we got this resolution put in front of us. Do we need a motion?
Yeah, motion to move it to the board.
Okay. I'll let Commissioner Rogers take it since she was starting before me, if she wants it.
Barb, do you want to
Or I'll
make?
move it.
Well, I want to make sure we're all agreeing on the third one then.
Yes.
Okay, there's no more discussion on which design. Okay, I think I like the third one myself, so yeah. So you're making a motion? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll support it.
Okay, any more discussion? One thing and this is close to my heart because of my experience, but the flag I think is awesome. I mean, I especially like the white background. At first, I didn't think it would be good, but man, that stands out. That is really nice. So.
Look too Canadian?
Not anymore. I'll tell you what, you guys squint to find that maple leaf on there. But- Okay, Joe, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm famous for throwing cold water on a lot of things. This, this is very nice, but it simply reminds me of putting a fresh coat of paint on a bad building. It looks better, but it's still a bad building. We have some significant, as you all know, difficulties ahead for the county. This has to be nothing more than a very minor first step.
All right, any other comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? All right, we have a logo in the works then. I was gonna say, just compare it to the one behind me. I don't see that there's any comparison anymore. This one's great, and I do like the colors. All right, thank you, Logan, for your hard work, and we'll expect shirts, flags, and literature within the end of the week. Or is that too soon?
Told you, Logan.
All right, moving on. Eric's not here. Nate, you're taking Eric's place.
See us?
All right, it's your turn, sir.
Okay. First thing we wanted to go over was the broadband update. We got a great one for you today. Broadband committee met on the 5th, and in there, Eric described how there was a 123.net summit hosted back in November, actually, at MSU. At that event, Eric Frederickson, who is from the MyHigh office, announced that they felt that they had enough funding to provide internet for the entire under and unserved areas in the state of Michigan. So that is a huge win for everybody here in Michigan. It was also announced that ARPA dollars would not be a viable use for this project due to timing. So next on the list here is Eli Gregg from ACD was present to provide an update on their plans that they are going to submit a BEAD application to the MyHigh office to blanket coverage for all remaining under and unserved areas in Eaton County. ACD.net is seeking continued support from Eaton County Broadband Group to provide the following: letters of support, identification of community anchor points, and public communication, which I'm sure Logan will help quite a bit with. The GIS team here at Eaton County has been working already to submit address points, the modifications, to the FCC for inclusion in the BEAD Address Challenge. Basically, we want to get every single address point as rock solid as we can. Do you have any questions on broadband?
Commissioner Toomey.
So I'm sorry, just in case I misunderstood, can you, the beginning part in terms of how much funding is available, you said?
There is enough funding at the My High office at the state to cover everybody in Michigan.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if I heard correctly.
That's what they told us. So they believe they have enough funding to take care of it without locals having to contribute.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nate, can you expound on that a little bit, what that actually means? They're not talking about free internet service for every resident. They're talking about development costs, correct?
Correct. So the goal is, and maybe Dan actually would be a better one if you want to come up here to explain this part. This is Dan Manning. I've seen before.
Yeah, I'm Dan Manning with Connected Nation, Connect Michigan. I've been working with a lot of you folks here. I've been before this committee a couple of times over the last couple of years. But the way that this funding works, this is all part of the federal infrastructure bill that was passed about a year and a half ago through the Biden administration. That money was set aside. There's about $42 billion that was set aside federally for bringing a certain level of broadband service across the country to all the underserved and unserved areas. That $42 billion was then broken down by state, and each of the states had to submit their case as to how many locations needed to be fixed as a result of all of this. Michigan ended up getting, I think, the number 4 amount of funding out of all the states. We were 4th out of the 50, and ended up getting about $1.56 billion to the state. That's now going to be used to fund additional grants that'll come to these various providers that will be building out new infrastructure across the state here over the next 4 to 5 years in order to make all that happen. So there's a minimum speed requirement of 100 megabits per second download speed, which is pretty significant compared to what a lot of people are getting today, and a minimum 20 megabit upload speed if you're interested in that. That's really more for businesses and interactive computing and stuff like that. So, and most of this infrastructure is going to be built with fiber technology. That's really the directions coming out of the My High office at the state level. They'd ideally like to get fiber to everybody. Remains to be seen if that's really going to happen that way. Hopefully it will, and there will be enough money to get fiber to every location within the state of Michigan. If not, they'll look at some other technologies, like perhaps some high-speed fixed wireless in those very remote locations where fiber is not viable. But ideally, we can get fiber to everybody. I say we, but it's really the My High office that's driving this whole program. That help with the question?
Does. Commissioner Toomey.
So leading up to 2024 and 2025, what does the county's role look like in taking advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like Nathan had said, one of the things that they're really focused on here at the county level, and all the counties across the state, frankly, are trying to get a very accurate picture of which locations are currently served by that minimum speed level that I mentioned, or underserved or unserved at all. They're really not getting any kind of service. So the My High office is about ready to publish a map that will show their cut at what they believe to be true across the state for every house and building and business across the state, and whether or not they're getting sufficient service. And then the county's role in a lot of this then is to help validate that, making sure that that definition is correct. If we know of discrepancies and things that need to be changed, then the county will go through a process to submit challenges to that so that we can adjust the map and make sure it's right. Because we've got to get the map right in order to know how to spend the money in the right places and make sure all that gets fixed.
Any other questions? Oh, Joe, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, the other thing that is important for the county as well as other local communities and institutions is the support for a particular plan. There is still going to be a scoring criteria. It's unclear from the Monday meeting exactly what is all within that criteria. And it's very possible that more than one provider will bid, essentially, offer contracts on the same locations. And some may be looking at using something other than fiber, something less. So it's important that we get behind a provider, and that is ACDNet, who has a plan for the county. It's a fiber plan, fiber optic plan, and we show the support for them. The request for proposals will probably come in, I guess, July or August, somewhere in that range. It was indicated to us on Monday that the state was going to try to make decisions on the granting of these various proposals by the end of the year, although frankly, given the delays that usually happen this kind of thing and did with the other grant, it may not be until January or February that they actually make the grants available. So we do have a role to play in continuing this process, and hopefully, we were assured that once the grants are out there, they're ready to go to work, and ACDNet would like to be able to finish the entire job in basically a year. So hopefully this is the light at the end of the tunnel. There's been a lot of people who've been working on this, Claudine, for close to 20 years now. And so just maybe we're almost there.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Mott.
Yeah, can you tell me, do you know the process? Are they going to be laying cable or the fiber in the right of way, and then the residents, as they want to subscribe, then they hook up to that, or do they connect to the houses right away? I mean, when they're in the initial process?
Yeah, I think the intent is to get the connections directly to all of the homes.
Okay.
Maybe, depending on the geography, there may be some situations where they lay it out to the road, and there may be some kind of a connection fee for that individual household to connect to the road. I think that depends on how these proposals come in from the various providers and how they see the implementation going, how they're going to roll out the networks and all that. But I think from a MyHigh state office standpoint, what they're trying to do is not put any of that cost onto the homeowners wherever they can, and try to make those connections happen initially up front without any cost to them.
Okay, good.
Commissioner Toomey.
And just one last question for my memory, because we ended up going with the reduced zone last time we looked at some broadband stuff. How many underserved houses did we identify in Eaton County? If you don't have the number offhand, we can get it from our previous.
I don't have the number off.
Okay, that's all right. I was just curious. Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the map should be available here within the next 2 weeks, so the hope is we could be able to see, once that map's available, at least what the state says in terms of how many unserved and underserved homes there are across the county. And then the county will help validate that with a lot of the work that Nathan and Eric have been doing in the past to identify all those homes.
Sure. Thank you.
Barb, did you have a comment? Okay. I've got a question based on what Commissioner Brailer said. How do we keep us from creating a monopoly in Eaton County using one provider? Is it one provider does the installation and then we open it up to other providers to supply the whatever service they supply?
It's all going to come down to the process for how they're going to spend that money. And they're going to basically offer sub-grants to all of these different providers that are interested in coming in and building in any part of the state. So Joe mentioned ACD. They're particularly interested because they have some of their network nearby that they can expand from there to cover the county. There are probably a couple other providers, like Comcast has looked at this as well. They may decide to apply for some of those funds to do part of the county. ACD has expressed their interest in doing the whole county. There may be another provider out there that is interested in doing a piece of it as well. So all of those applications will come together at the MyHigh office, They will look at how much coverage they're getting, what the cost required to do all of that is, which providers they have the most confidence in and be able to do that work and have the reliability and dependability that they need. And they will make their first cut as to which providers are going to be in which counties in order to get as much coverage as we can. And then at the end of that, there will still be some areas left over that aren't covered based on what all those applications covered. So there'll be a second round of grants that'll come through then where the MyHigh office will probably go to individual providers that they know and say, we've got this pocket over here in the southeast corner of Eaton County that nobody bid on, and we'd like to have you come in and do that. How much money would it take from the state in order for you to make that happen, coupled with the money that the provider themselves will invest in it? So that's kind of how the process will all work. So it may well be where you end up with one, maybe two providers that are covering the county. But I think that's about the only way that it's going to get done, to be able to get coverage everywhere for everybody.
Actually, I think we have a number of providers in the county now. Keep in mind, this project is only for the underserved and the unserved. So there's a portion of the county that's got robust competition. I don't think, at the end of the day, we're going to have a monopoly situation.
All right. Commissioner Toomey?
I think Commissioner Brailer makes an excellent point that this is specifically for the underserved and unserved areas, and as well, just because they are under and unserved areas, just the infrastructure costs that are going to come along with doing all this work. I mean, it's almost going to have to be done by a smaller amount of organizations just to make it worth the cost to set up all the infrastructure, so.
Well, they're underserved and unserved precisely because the providers at this point either don't want to go into those areas because of the cost of developing them, or don't have the resources to do that now. So the only way we're going to be able to do this is in a partnership with, in this case, the state.
Questions or comments anymore? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Is that what you want?
So that's a huge win for digital equity here in our county. The next thing I want to go on to is the aerial image update. Stakeholders met on January 17th at the Tri-County Regional Planning Committee to discuss the proposed 2025 acquisition. Representatives that were present were Eaton County, Ingham County, City of Lansing, Delhi Township, Delta Township, the Board of Water and Light. They were trying to coordinate a fly time of approximately in March to April this year, depending on a bunch of factors, weather, et cetera, et cetera. That's really great for our air imagery. The next part we have here is the project updates. So the first one is the cloud search and property alert for the Register of Deeds office. That project is currently on hold. The vendor is backlogged. There's a lot of other counties doing the same thing to offer a service. Next is the KnowBe4 trainings. We started that off this month, and that is our security trainings we're doing now. Approximately 54% of users have completed the trainings, which is actually pretty good. So we're pretty happy with that right now. MMRMA reimbursement funding was submitted as well to get back, I believe it's 50% of the cost of that one. Central Dispatch remodel. Eric and I met with Central Dispatch and Facility Management last week to identify a scope of work. We're looking at around midsummer, depending on some vendors that are going to be helping with the project. Dispatch is going to do a small remodeling project, essentially. As you can imagine, there's quite a bit of technology and wires in the floor that we cannot wait to move. Construction code equalization. Wiring for equalization was completed in mid-January. The equalization staff were relocated to the new offices. And now I believe the work is mostly focused on the construction code side of things for that project as well. Next is a security camera project. I'm happy to report the Public Defender's Office is completed. All of our data centers are completed, and Central Dispatch is in the design phase right now. That's going to be really nice to have those updated, and we will have quality cameras finally. Nerd in me likes that. Youth facility time lapse. We were tasked with capturing a time lapse of the construction project that's happening at the youth facility expansion. We are utilizing our drone for the first time to capture some imagery. I'm sure Logan will be able to share that out once we get it all compiled in. It's pretty cool to see how the precast walls are brought in on semi trucks and they just are building a building in like 2 weeks. It's a pretty cool thing to see. We have a upgrade happening to our backup system. The vendor was in contact today to get that updated. That project started literally this morning, so I'm excited to have that. We are replacing technology that was purchased in 2018, and that is due to us simply outgrowing the storage capacity of the old system. And then the final thing is budget preparation has started. Pretty typical for this time of year, really, so. Any questions? I actually looked over this way on purpose. 'Cause
There's a lot of fear there.
Hey, any more questions for Nate? All right, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate your report. Moving on to miscellaneous. Do we have any miscellaneous?
No, sir.
All right. Any limited public comment? Very limited. Anybody just want to jump up and say something? Okay. All right, then we are adjourned until next month. Thank you all for attending.
Logan, logo. That's good information to have. Yeah, actually, Mom just got back.